Hello again everybody and welcome to another research session. And since we're approaching release of a Spitfire Mark IX and then a 1944 Normandy map in DCS World, I've been curious to see what a typical experience for a Spitfire Mark IX unit would be in Normandy. So what I'm going to do is have a very close look at a Spitfire unit, and I've chosen the 144 Wing Royal Canadian Air Force, and that's going to be 3 squadrons, 441, 442, and 443. And I'm going to follow them day by day, mission by mission, through the entire campaign, starting on the 1st of June, just prior to the D-Day landings, just to get a feel for how some of the preparation went, and then all the way through September at the point where they leave the extents of the Normandy map in DCS. And just as a point of expectation management, the Normandy map is really geared, as far as I can tell, around post-landing activities, beginning say mid to late June of 44, so even though I am looking at these earlier dates, including the landings and the period just after, I don't believe, based on the information that we have available right now, that we'll be able to do that at the normal fidelity. Really, we're going to be geared around post-landing activities inland of the coast. But as we'll see as we go, that's fine. There's plenty to do here. But in either case, the 1st of June is where I'm going to start. Now, as resources, of course, I'm going to use Google Earth extensively here. I have plotted out airfields that we're going to be dealing with. RAF Ford up on the English coast initially, then as early as the 10th, airfield AOG B3 at St. Croix-sur-Mer will be used for rearming and refueling, and then the wing moves there permanently on the 15th, and then later on moves to AOG B10, and then further and further east as the campaign goes. I also have a number of overlays here that are going to give us some context as we get into descriptions of the various operations, to include some pretty exact locations for the ground war, what units are where as we go. And then I have some grid maps from the period so that when grid coordinates are called out to us for target locations or areas of interest, we'll be able to plot these out and see exactly where they're at. Now, to get information on day-to-day activities, I'm going to be drawing from a couple of just general overall sources. First, the Liberation of Northwest Europe, Volume 3. This is a monograph that covers the landings in Normandy. I also have the Royal Canadian Air Force official history that covers these units and the time frame. But primarily, I'm going to be drawing off of the Form 540. That's an operations record book that covers a day-by-day narrative for each of the 3 squadrons, the 442 being very, very detailed, excellent documentation. Same goes for the 443 squadron. And then I have the Form 541, and this is a detailed record of work carried out. This covers mission by mission, pilot by pilot, aircraft by aircraft, exactly what was done with details noted out in the remarks. We have takeoff and landing times, locations, and like I mentioned, we have in some cases grid locations called out so that we can see, for example, gliders landing at uniform 0774 and uniform 1375 and being fired on from all sides. Then with that information, we can go to the map and that grid overlay I had up and find the exact location where this was. I want to see that, and I can even go as far as, in some cases, as looking for photography. There was a lot of overhead photography from the exact time frame we're looking at, so if I, for example, come in here and refine these dates a little bit and apply the filter, now I can zoom in to that exact location, which incidentally would have been right here in this area, and then look for these gliders that were called out. This is going to be a lot of fun. So if that sounds fun to you, feel free to stick around. I think I'm going to enjoy it. Now let me go ahead and get into just an overview, more or less, of where we're at. Now the entire wing is up here at RAF Ford, and that's where a lot of units stage out of, just airfields all around the coast. And this is where we're going to continue to fly missions out of for the first couple of weeks in June. Now coming over to the RCAF overseas, it says that preparation for the invasion was now complete. For weeks, the airfields have been carrying out practice moves, weights and loading tables had been worked out for each vehicle. Again and again, the equipment had been packed and stowed away. Vehicles have been marked and waterproofed, ground personnel have been trained in driving trucks and handling small arms and laying out and camouflaging campsites, route marches have been laid on to toughen them up. That doesn't sound at all like how things go nowadays. Well, the rest does, not so much the group marches though. Dakota transports, C-47s, came to the airfields to practice loading personnel to be carried across by air as soon as the landing strips were available in France. So everyone, of course, knows that a move is on. Not everybody at this point knows exactly where the landing is going to be. Only key personnel, those planning the specific missions that are going to be supporting the landings. The month of May would have seen missions all over the northern coast of France here, all the way from Pas-de-Calais to Brittany, destroying enemy aircraft in the air and on the ground, hitting troop concentrations, and doing supply interdiction, looking for convoys and supplies, materiel moving by road. Weapon sites along the coast would have been hit as part of an operation called Crossbow. And then as the landings got closer and closer, radar installations and coastal defenses along the coast would have been hit more and more, spread out all along the coast so as not to give away the exact landing location at Normandy. The plan that is being built up to is for this unit that we're looking at to provide top cover for these ships and for the landing area immediately after the landing. So that's the overall situation we're looking at. Now, if I go to the individual 4 and 540s for these units, I'll go through the 1st of June here, starting with 441 Squadron. No operational sorties were flown today, but 9 aircraft took off on test flights, and that's all part of the effort to make sure that all the pilots are up to speed on communication procedures, low-level navigation, anything they would need to be prepared to do after the landing. Now, 442 Squadron, as usual, goes into a lot more detail here. Light rain at 0900 hours, but the sun shone later. Pilot Officer O'Sullivan took a new Spit to Tangmere to butt test, and that means a test of the gun system firing into a gun butt, or just an earthen berm, sometimes with, on these old RAF fields, like a brick structure around it to catch ricochet, but it's just an operational test of a new Spitfire gun system, and also an opportunity to get the convergence right, so that when the guns fire, the bullets come together at the right distance in front of the aircraft. About 20 pilots attended a lecture on fractures given by a medical officer, Flight Lieutenant Whitelaw in the crew room. 2 pilots over France on a patrol for 3 Marauders B-26s who hit the target. Visibility excellent, no flak, no enemy aircraft sighted. In the afternoon, released for training and practice flying carried out. A truck full took in the movie Keeper of the Flame with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn at Station Intelligence. The soundtrack was distorted and the film broke several times in each reel. Total flying hours, and that's operational flying, 2 hours. Now, 443 Squadron states simply that weather cloudy and moderate, clearing up during the afternoon. Monthly returns being prepared and forwarded as quickly as possible, and monthly returns would be just records, including the previous month's 540 and 541 being forwarded up to 83rd Group, the immediate headquarters unit for the 144 wing here. No flying carried out by the squadron, and at 15:30 hours, official release was received until the following day. Now, of course, the only entry on either unit's 541 is going to be the 2 Spitfire bomber escort of these B-26s, and this is the one that I already have plotted out here. And if I ditch the overlay, we can zoom on in and have a look. Now, it says that 2 aircraft on patrol for 3 Marauders over Saint-Marie-à-Bois, sheet 8E5745, which dropped bombs accurately on target, no enemy aircraft opposition, no flak. Now, the number you see here is a grid reference, and after much agonizing over this number, it's not 8E, or it shouldn't be 8E, that's just a mistranscription. It should in fact be L5745, and as we come down here, I said we'd have an opportunity to look at some grid references and figure out exactly where these spots were. So we can see that we're on the L, so if I go L57, so I just start on the 5 line that we see running right here, 7/10ths over, and that's going to put us right about there where the cursor is. And then in 45, I start at the 4 line, count up 5, and what I'll do actually is place a pin right down there at the location. And now in fact I can refine the placement of that pin there, because this overhead view taken on the 6th of June shows pretty clearly what must have been that gun emplacement. I can't make out any detail, but I'm going to assume that right there in the middle of that aim point is a pretty good spot. Now, looking at what's still there, we can still see clearly a lot of craters in the area, and this spot right here, that looks like a pretty good candidate for, if not remnants of some sort of like a coastal gun site, then something that would have been right there on top of it. We have some more craters slightly up here to the north, and yeah, I think this is still the best candidate that I can see there. Let me see if I can find anything further up to the north. And no, that's it. There's nothing else available as far as imagery in the area, and you can actually see the tracks, 2 tracks taken by aircraft as they were on recon missions on the 6th of June to take these photos. In fact, we have the exact sortie number. They were from 544 Squadron RAF, sortie 106G709, and 544 Squadron RAF. These would have been Mosquitoes that took these. And that's neat. You would be able to go in here and look at the entire ground track, and I'm sure we'll be using some others as we go here. But in either case, that's the only mission for the day. 15:05 takeoff, 16:05 landing, and then we're on to the 2nd of June. So I plan to do one of these per day, and I'm already way over the time that I had allotted myself to do this. And we're going to pick up next time with June the 2nd. It's a lot better weather that day and a lot more sorties to look at. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.